What's going on, guys? Ben with liftedimports.com, and I wanted to share a quick little tip with you guys today. Something that you guys can do to get just a little bit more suspension travel when you're going off-road. Now, this might be a little bit controversial to some people, and before we go any further, just gotta preface this by saying that if you do this, you're gonna wanna make sure that you only do it when you're leaving the pavement. Obviously, nothing I say here is advice, I'm just sharing my experiences. But what you can do if you find that your wheels won't droop quite far enough when you're on the trail and you're on some uneven terrain, something you can do is unhook your sway bars when you hit the trails. Some people will completely remove them. I've got mine permanently disconnected currently. Essentially, the way that a sway bar works is it connects both sides of your suspension together to just create more stability when you're driving on the pavement. A sway bar absolutely does help with on-road handling, but what I find is that I'm not really ever driving a lifted Subaru to the point that it really needs that extra rigidity from the sway bars. Now, I mean, I could just reattach the sway bars, but again, I haven't, because I haven't noticed that big of a change. You know, if you're driving a sports car and you take the sway bars off and you just start, you take it to the track, you're absolutely going to notice a difference. You know, if you're driving something that you have pavement performance in mind with, definitely want to make sure that you've got sway bars, of course. But for a lifted Subaru that you're taking off-road, I really have never run into any big issues at all by just removing the sway bars. Now, what you can do is basically you're going to have sway bar links that look something like this, right? So they're going to be slightly different based on what kind of car you've got, what sort of Subaru you have. You'll have like a nut, and then this stud right here in a lot of situations will actually have like a place for an Allen key. So you'll basically have to put an Allen wrench in there to hold the stud from spinning, and then you'll loosen the nut. Now, what I do in certain situations is I will just pull either the top or the bottom and then kind of fold everything down out of the way and fold the sway bar up. I haven't run into any problems doing that yet. You'll just want to make sure that you give everything a good look and make sure that there's nothing that is going to be pinched, or make sure that the sway bar is not going to come into contact with anything vital if you're in full suspension compression. Just make sure that you use common sense. But I've been running with my sway bars disconnected in my Subaru for probably 3 years, and I've always kind of had them disconnected on my lifted Subarus for the last 8 to 10 years. No problems. But again, I'm not really driving these cars to any sort of full potential whatsoever when I'm driving them in town. They're on oversized tires. I'm driving the speed limit. I'm not taking turns in any sort of aggressive manner. What I will say is this: you will experience a little bit more body roll in your Subaru. Just keep in mind that if you're going to go ahead and pull your sway bars off and not reinstall them, which I would absolutely recommend, I definitely think that you should make sure your car is as safe as it can be when you are back on the road. But if you don't, what you're going to notice, you're just going to feel a little bit more tilting as you take turns, and any sudden turns or sharp turns of the steering wheel is going to result in just a much more, I guess, soft and less responsive feeling. That being said, I've had no problems. Again, it's been one of those things that's like a no-cost modification that you can do. You can also do things like there are some quick disconnect end links that you can purchase. I think Rally Tech actually makes some, which I think is great. They might actually be the first company to make those for Subarus, which I 100% appreciate. You can also check and see if there's sway bar end link extension brackets. I've actually owned a set of those from Anderson Design and Fabrication. I took them off and totally, I was working on something, took them off, and now I just need to dig them up out of the box. But yeah, you can use something like that. But if you're just going to be going off-road for like a weekend trip or something like that, you can definitely pull your sway bars down, just run without them. Now the benefit of running no sway bars is your suspension, because it's not linked up to that sway bar anymore, your wheels are going to be able to travel up and down a little bit more freely. Now it's not going to be like long travel suspension that you might find on a trophy truck by any means whatsoever, but it might just be enough to give you that edge that you need when you get into some really tricky terrain. So I know this is just kind of a random short tip, but I hope it's helpful for you guys. Again, I can't be held liable for any modifications that you do to your car, and I definitely recommend keeping your car in the most safe condition that it can possibly be in when you are on the road. My Subaru mainly sees trail use, so I'm not as concerned about it as those of you that are daily driving. But when you're on the road, you absolutely have a responsibility to make sure that your vehicle is safe. But with that being said, this is just a quick little tip that you can use to get that little bit of an edge when you're on the trails. I hope this is helpful for you. If it is, consider subscribing to the channel. I'd absolutely love to hear from you guys. You can also head over to liftedimports.com if you want to check out other build features from people that are just like us, that have already built their Subarus and are taking them off-road. Lots of good information and inspiration over there on the website. And you can drop us an email there if you have any additional questions. Till next time, see you guys out on the trail. Have a fantastic day.